$32 trillion. That is the amount of equity that homeowners in the United States, across the entire country, are sitting on. Now, there's a difference between actual equity and what is called tappable equity. Tappable equity means the amount of money that you could extract safely and responsibly from that property versus the total amount that you're actually sitting on. Now, while this tappable amount is significantly less than the $32 trillion in what is actually sitting in the form of equity, it's still a huge, huge number. So let's first define what equity is. But before I do that, please make sure that you like this video so that we can reach more people with education about topics related to housing and mortgage debt like this one. And also subscribe to my channel, because the more it grows, the more we can bring you valuable content like this. My name is Arjun Dhingra. I am a two-time Taekwondo world champion, former Team USA co-head coach, and a strong advocate for responsible borrowing when it comes to mortgage debt. I've been in the industry for about 25 years, and my mission is to help empower people make better decisions around taking out mortgage debt and using it strategically as a wealth growing tool. Now, we've helped thousands of families here in the Bay Area over my 24-year career, and I'd be honored to help you out if there's anything I could be of service to you with or my team. So please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Arjun Mortgage for anything related to this housing market in the way of resources or actual services. Now let's get into the video. So the definition of equity, quite simply put, if you have the value of something, we'll call that the market value, and you take out what you owe or what the debt is against that asset, what is in between is your equity. So we'll use a really simple example of a $500 home. That would be nice. And you've got $200 in debt against it, or a $200 mortgage. That spread of $300 is your equity, meaning that's your money or gain to be realized if you were to sell it, less any cost. So let's say that you could sell this house for $500K. You would get out a gross amount of $300 in profit. However, after some small amounts of real estate commissions, transfer taxes, or any other fees tied in with that connection, your net gain or net amount that you get from the home is not quite $300, but maybe it's $280. That would be your equity that you'd get. So the equity basically means if you were to sell or exit this property by way of a transaction, whatever the difference is between the fair market value or whatever is agreed upon as a sales price and how much you owe, less any other fees or transaction costs or commissions that you need to pay out to facilitate that sale, that is your equity and that is your upside. Now, this has been the fastest way to create wealth in the United States, aside from hitting the lottery or suing somebody. That used to be the number one way to become a millionaire. But real estate as an asset class has created more wealth and more millionaires than any other investment strategy ever in the United States, and that's not likely to change. That's what makes it such a powerful tool. Now, with homeowners in the country sitting on $32 trillion worth of equity, and a smaller but still significant amount of that is considered to be tappable, meaning it could be extracted, let's talk about first how you would extract that equity, and if you did, what you would responsibly want to use it for. Because as some of you are hearing this, you might be thinking back to 2008 and saying, this guy sounds crazy. In fact, he sounds like somebody from 2008. And in fact, I actually am, because I was in the industry at that time. But people were extracting their equity during a very similar type of market where home prices were just running up. Interest rates at that time, and that's a difference between now and then, were very, very low, relatively speaking, of course. So people just kept refinancing and pulling out equity. The problem is no one was investing it or doing anything responsible with it or putting it back into their homes or using it to further their actual future. And they were buying material goods with it: cars, jet skis, clothes, funding lifestyles, living well beyond their means. And that ultimately, when the music stopped, is what truly caused the bubble to pop. So this market's a little bit different because the quality of the borrower in the US is much stronger. The credit guidelines and standards for which you get a mortgage are so much more strict. And the overall temperament or credit score or spending behaviors and patterns of these borrowers and people who have mortgages is vastly different than it was from 2008. So no one is really worried about that. But again, I always want to make note that there are responsible ways to utilize your equity, and I'll get into all three of those areas here shortly. But first, let's outline the two ways that you would extract the equity. And this is outside of outright just selling your property. If you were in a home and you've got a good amount of equity in it and you want to figure out a way to get it out, the first way you could do it is by attaching a home equity line of credit, or a second mortgage is what it's also referred to as, to your home. So you might have, going back to that previous example, with a $500 value on that home and a $200 debt or mortgage, you might be able to attach a $100 line of credit. So this would basically increase your overall total debt on this property to $300,000, the 200 plus the new 100 as a line of credit. You still got 200 in equity that's left over, and you've extracted the 100K by way of a home equity line of credit. This also allows you, and this is the case for a lot of people, to not have to affect that probably very low interest rate that's attached to the $200 in this example. Many homeowners are sitting on a very attractive interest rate, which has kept them stuck in their homes because they didn't want to abandon it and go somewhere else. And that's a whole separate topic, which I've covered in other videos on this channel. But they still want to access their equity. So they can do so by way of a home equity line of credit, and you get a win on both sides. You keep your great rate and you get a home equity line and still get your equity out to do whatever you want to do with. The other way, or second outlined way here to extract equity, would be to do a cash out refinance. So in this case, we would, let's say, restructure the entire $200 mortgage debt that you have and now make it for $300,000. So we have one $300,000 loan. We pay off the $200,000 debt to the old bank. The extra 100 comes back to you in the form of cash, and you can utilize the equity the same way. Either way is advantageous. It just depends on your personal situation and what you're using the money for. Now, the reason why Americans will tap their equity and use it, again, we're going to outline those 3 responsible ways in which they can do so and what those purposes exactly would be. But the reason why people do it is because debt or mortgage equity is tax-free. When you pull out that money, you are not taxed. This is the secrets of the rich. This is why the Grant Cardones of the world brag about being in debt, because they own assets, and as those assets increase in value over time, they extract the equity debt-free and put that money into other things that are going to do the same thing. So they rinse and repeat while never experiencing a taxable event. And meanwhile, because the money is tied up in real estate projects, that income in large part is considered passive or tax-free. So they're taking out money tax-free, reinvesting it with no taxable event, and then the money they make off those on a monthly basis is tax-free. That sounds like a pretty cool way to live to me. So that is why equity is so attractive. It's because it's tax-free. Now let's talk about the 3 responsible ways that homeowners in the United States are taking their equity and putting it to work. The first way, and this is very popular right now, is for debt consolidation. Credit card debt in the United States has eclipsed $1.4 trillion, which is a huge number. It's a historical number. And the delinquencies or the late payments attached to a lot of that debt has been on the rise, and nobody's really talking about that. Auto loan debt in this country is also at an all-time high, and those delinquencies are also on the upswing. So you take all this outstanding debt, much of which has interest rates attached to it in the 20% and plus range. Auto loans may not quite be that high, but credit card rates certainly are, and people are being crippled by it. So in many cases, if we look at extracting equity, either by way of a cash out refinance or a home equity line, and we absorb that into your house, the net savings of eliminating all those payments versus having one new payment over here generally offers a huge monthly outflow discount or savings, meaning the amount of money that you're writing checks for that goes out every month to pay all those bills, now that they've been eliminated and you're just writing one check to the mortgage, or 2, if you have a home equity line of credit, is saving you money as opposed to just leaving all that debt out there. Plus the tax advantages of wrapping this debt into your home, because mortgage interest up to a certain point is tax deductible, and you'll want to consult with your CPA and the specific market you're in to see how much of that is deductible if you're not already taking advantage of this great feature in home ownership. But this is what can get people ahead. And it's also what I'm seeing the most of in terms of the motivating reason why people are wanting to pull out equity. They're wanting to get rid of all that debt. This particular time of year is a wake-up call for a lot of people because they get caught up in the holiday spirit between parties and buying gifts for everyone and spending money to travel to see family. And then in that first week of January, they get that credit card statement and say, oh crap. And they realize we overspent. And not only did we overspend in December, we've been overspending all year. If you have a home and you have equity in it, this is a responsible and worthy thing to look into, because if you can wrap it into it and save money, you'll set yourself up in the future. You'll eliminate that debt and stress. But the most important thing is you need to keep that personal spending, or what you're actually throwing money at, under control and create new discipline for it, because you don't want to end up right back in the same spot, which so many Americans sadly do. The second use of equity is for home improvement. A lot of people in the United States feel trapped in the home they're in because they've either got a great mortgage attached to it, or there's just nothing else to choose from. Specifically here in the Bay Area, mostly in the mid to higher end markets, there's not a lot of options for people to upgrade, because when you factor in all the different economics that go into such a decision, such as having a higher property tax basis and paying more for a house that's not much bigger and is more expensive in terms of borrowing because of rising interest rates, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So for a lot of people, including yours truly, they are weighing out the option of, instead of moving out of the house that they're outgrowing because of their growing family or whatever the personal reasons might be, that they actually add on to it. Now, this comes with its own set of headaches, particularly here in the Bay Area, where it's not easy to get plans approved, permitted, and eventually start construction for a remodel project. But a lot of people in other parts of the country are doing this, and it's a no-brainer. They're making the home that they live in more desirable, and that is a good use of the money. If you're going to take home equity out to make your home more enjoyable and make it more conducive to your current lifestyle, that is a good way to do it, because at the end of the day, the equity is just sitting there and it's not earning anything. So you could try and bootstrap the repairs or the improvements that you want to make, or extract the equity, and by way of doing so, you're adding value to the house, which means the recovery of that equity that you pulled out to put into the home is probably going to be a short period of time, because you might have doubled the size of your house, which means it may not be worth double in value, but it's going to be worth a lot more. The last use of equity being done by most homeowners in the United States is to invest. Now, investing has a number of asterisks or bullet points attached to it here. The investing could be to invest into other real estate markets or other actual assets. It could be to put money into the stock market. Maybe you want to get in on this crypto rally. Or they're investing in businesses that they own because they don't want to get out business loans because maybe they're more expensive, or they're more difficult to get, or the business concept is just not that big and worthwhile the hassle. They'd rather get the equity out quickly and do that cash injection into something that they're trying to fund themselves. This is a good, responsible way of doing it. The other way, I would say, that is a responsible use, and it falls under the same investment category, would be if you're investing in yourself. If you're going to take that money and put it into, say, education to help you develop a new skill that's going to make you a better person or a more productive member of society, or increase your earning power in this economy, then that is certainly worthwhile and worthy of using the equity in a responsible way. You also might just want to improve upon the skill sets that you already have and make yourself more valuable in the job that you're already in. Totally fine. But those are the three areas. Again, paying off debt, improving the home that you're in, or making another investment. And again, when you're making these investments, you're doing so in a way where the rate of return far exceeds, or its upside is much better than what you borrowed the money at. If you can find a way to borrow money at a certain rate, but put it into something that's going to earn more than that, then you're making a smart investment move. So that's how to analyze what to do with equity. We also defined at the beginning of this video what equity is and the two most common ways to actually extract equity out of a residential property. Now, some of these guidelines could apply to commercial loans, but I don't do commercial lending, so you'll want to consult a commercial specialist. But just understand that equity is broad and general when it comes to assets, and pulling it out can be done in a variety of ways, but there are some similarities as well to real estate. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something out of it. Again, if you enjoyed or got something out of it, please like it. Please subscribe to my channel so that we can continue to educate you with more tools and resources like this. And I'll see you guys on the next video.